We lost him in his prime. And then I want to talk to Will Hurst, the editor of the Architects Journal, about more developments on the Garden Bridge front. It may mean that I don't have time for anyone else, in which case I apologise in advance. Graham, where were we? Your mates who care about polar bears but don't care about cocaine.
Well, people who check on the ingredients of what they're eating and make sure they've got everything in there that they're allowed to eat or they're not allowed to eat. And yes, they'll go and do a line of coke at a party. Think nothing of it.
It's a very good point.
But when it's explained to them, because I've been to Bolivia, I've been to Colombia, I've seen where these places, the places this stuff comes from and the conditions that people have to live in order to make it. You're talking about situations in which a gang of drug dealers will tear up your farm and say, I want you to grow cocaine for me. The farmer says no, they kill his wife, they kill his children. He goes, okay then, and starts growing it for them, risking getting killed himself by the DEA from America or by the Colombian...
Or if they're lucky enough to escape and get to the American border, they'll have their children taken away from them and locked in cages while Donald Trump's fans cheer.
Exactly, so this is fueling all of the drugs crime in Central America, where you've got all these guns coming down from North America, all this drugs coming up from South America, but it's also fueling crimes in countries that you wouldn't think of, like for instance Guinea in West Africa is a narco state. The government makes its money pretty much from being a middleman for drugs coming from South America up to Europe.
Really?
And I was there in 2000. Yeah, I was there in 2009.
What do you do? How come you do all that? What's your interest in all this?
I'm the first and only person to visit every country in the world without flying.
Are you the bloke that's just done that podcast with Kieran?
Yeah, Kieran's a mate of mine.
Well, this is...
follow up on something that John said, because I've been to the graveyard in Mostar.
Yeah.
Hundreds of graves, young men, and all got the same date of death. It's the most chilling thing I've ever seen outside of a concentration camp.
I'm going to talk to you again tomorrow. We'll ring you back and have a chat about lots of stuff because that podcast looks fascinating. Kieran, the van driver, of course, who John Shirley just referred to, Graham, and who's the other fella that you're doing it with?
Jason Hunter. He is an international trade negotiator. He's negotiating.
Yeah, but he won't know as much about international trade as Nadine Dorries does.
Well, we like to say that anything that people say what's going to happen on March the 30th, it's actually going to be worse. But I think John kind of summed it up when he said Yugoslavia. I think that's how bad it's going to be.
I find that too frightening, actually. I need to process that.
Because I don't know too much. I know about the geography of the world. I know that most of the world's really poor in comparison with Europe. But that's not the point here. I asked, why can't we just throw open the borders then? Which would be great for drug dealers, obviously, not great for the rest of us. And they said, well, the problem with that is, Graham, our border is two countries. It's one country in and one country out. And they simply won't let the trucks back into France.
That's right.
Because they shouldn't have come into Britain in the first place.
Yeah, no, I mean, every time I think I've got my head around it, someone like you or John comes along and makes me think that I've barely grasped the beginnings of it. But we will talk again. That podcast is called Three Blokes in a Pub, or similar, and it looks absolutely brilliant. Starring Kieran and Graham and that chap Jason Hunter, who you just heard of, who has done international trade deals for all of his working life. But obviously, he won't know as much about any of this as Charlie Elphicke does, the winner of today's Nadine Dorries Award for weapons-grade Brexit ignorance.